And I will always love you. That voice, that song, that movie where Kevin Costner carried Whitney Houston to safety while the world collectively swooned. The Bodyguard hit theaters in November 1992 and did something almost impossible. It took a script that Hollywood rejected 67 times, paired a first-time actress with America's biggest movie star, sparked controversy over an interracial romance, and turned it all into a $411 million box office juggernaut with the best-selling soundtrack of all time. Welcome to The Bodyguard, the film that proved critics don't know anything. They called it cheesy, melodramatic, and forgettable. Audiences said, "Hold my popcorn," and made it the second highest grossing film of 1992. Today we're diving into 15 weird facts about the movie that turned I Will Always Love You into a 14-week chart topper, made a body double more famous than she ever wanted to be, and almost starred Madonna until she ruined everything by calling Kevin Costner's concert neat. Now, before we get started, be sure to like and subscribe because it really does help this channel. And let's rock with number 15. On number 15, the script got rejected 67 times before anyone said yes. Lawrence Kasdan wrote The Bodyguard in 1975 while working as an advertising copywriter, desperately trying to break into Hollywood. The script was good enough to finally get him an agent. Then it got rejected 67 times over 2 years. 67 times. Every studio in town passed. Warner Brothers finally bought it in 1977 for $20,000, then promptly stuck it on a shelf and forgot about it. For over a decade, that script gathered dust while Kasdan went on to write Raiders of the Lost Ark and direct Body Heat. The man became one of Hollywood's most respected writer-directors, and his breakout script still couldn't get made. According to Kasdan himself, his agent said during those early years they couldn't even get him a job writing for Starsky and Hutch. That's how cold Hollywood was on this script. Not good enough for a cop show, apparently. Here's the irony. The script that nobody wanted in the 70s became one of the highest-grossing films of the 90s. The rejection that seemed like failure was just Hollywood being too early to the party. By the time Kevin Costner read it in 1985, on a break from filming Silverado, the industry had changed. Costner loved it immediately. But even he had to wait until after Dances with Wolves made him a superstar before he could get it into production. Number 14. Diana Ross refused the role and it ended her relationship.
All right, I'm up.
Frank.
The Bodyguard was originally written for Steve McQueen and Diana Ross. When McQueen's health issues forced him out, Ryan O'Neal stepped in. Here's where it gets messy. O'Neal and Ross were dating at the time, and the studio told him they wouldn't greenlight the film unless Diana agreed to star. Ross read the script and hated it. She had issues with the nudity, the violence, the coarse language, the music, and even the title. In August 1979, Ross pulled out of the movie. Shortly after, O'Neal announced they'd ended their romantic relationship. He blamed her withdrawal from The Bodyguard for the breakup. O'Neal later stated the reason the film wasn't produced was Ross playing off her reputation as a diva. The film went back into development purgatory for another decade. And here's the cosmic justice. When it finally did get made with Whitney Houston, it became the second highest grossing film of 1992 and launched the best-selling soundtrack of all time. Ross had to watch Houston sing one of the most iconic performances in movie history in the role she'd turned down. That's the kind of irony that keeps you up at night. Number 13. Kevin Costner fought the studio to cast Whitney Houston over Julia Roberts. When Kevin Costner decided Whitney Houston should play Rachel Marin, the studio had other ideas. They wanted Michelle Pfeiffer, or Julia Roberts, or literally anyone with better acting chops than a first-time actress who'd never been in a movie. Costner told Howard Stern in 2024 that when he looked at it, he thought it could have been Michelle Pfeiffer. It could have been Julia Roberts. It could have been anybody. But he said, no, it should be Whitney Houston. For me, it was so easy to go, well, this is the most beautiful girl. This is the one who can sing. This is the girl. The studio kept pushing back. Some executives even felt the need to point out to Costner that Whitney Houston was black, worried an interracial romance would spark controversy. Costner told CBS Sunday Morning, I like to think that that's what it was. I didn't see it as a risk at all. He delayed production for an entire year so Houston could finish her I'm Your Baby Tonight tour. The studio thought he was crazy. He was right. The film made $411 million worldwide. The soundtrack sold 45 million copies, and Houston's performance earned her nominations from the People's Choice Awards, MTV Movie Awards, and NAACP Image Awards. Number 12, Whitney was terrified and cried on. Set questioning. If she was good enough.
Yeah, but did you have to get me an old man?
I don't trust you.
Whitney Houston was one of the biggest pop stars in the world. She'd sold millions of albums, won multiple Grammys, and performed for presidents. But when it came time to film The Bodyguard, she was absolutely terrified. Houston was so nervous about her first acting role that she nearly backed out multiple times. She told Rolling Stone in 1993 that her plan had been to start with small roles and slowly work her way up. I never thought I'd be co-starring with Kevin Costner. According to Costner's 2012 eulogy at her funeral, Houston cried on set, questioning whether she was good enough. Arguably, the biggest pop star in the world didn't think she was good enough, he said. He recalled tears on set as Whitney questioned her voice and her ability to deliver. Director Mick Jackson later explained the pressure Houston felt. You're making a queen of her genre into a beginner again. And Whitney was aware of the loss of control that would mean. Her life as a pop star means that everything is set to her requirements, which is totally different from what happens when shooting a film. Costner said on the Armchair Expert podcast that director Mick Jackson was uncomfortable with her and didn't want to cast Houston. She was my choice, so I was the actor, but I was also the producer. It was only after Costner personally called her and promised, I will not let you fall, I will help you, that she finally agreed. He told her not to get acting lessons, just be herself. Houston made it through, and the rest is history. Number 11, the iconic poster wasn't Whitney Houston. That legendary Bodyguard poster with Kevin Costner carrying Whitney Houston to safety in his arms, the one that sold millions of tickets and became one of the most recognizable movie images of the 90s? Yeah, that's not Whitney Houston. Costner revealed to Entertainment Weekly in 2019 that Houston had already gone home for the day when photographer Ben Glass took that shot. Her stunt double stood in, burying her head into Costner's shoulder, which was appropriate anyway, Costner said. She was frightened. Warner Brothers executives looked at the photo and said absolutely not. Their argument made sense. You're making a Whitney Houston movie. Shouldn't people see Whitney Houston's face on the poster? But Costner fought for it. He loved the photo precisely because it was evocative without showing faces. I sent it to Warner Brothers and I go, there's the poster, he told Entertainment Weekly. The photo was taken by his friend Ben Glass, and Costner said it was evocative because there was no special photography. Just urgency and emotion captured in black and white. The studio relented. The poster became iconic. It's still one of the most recognizable movie posters in cinema history. And the woman in Kevin Costner's arms, her name was Joyce Larkin, Houston's stunt double, and she probably had no idea she was about to be plastered on theater walls worldwide. Number 10, Kevin Costner, chose I Will Always Love You and insisted on the a cappella opening. The song that defined The Bodyguard almost wasn't in the movie at all. Originally, Whitney Houston was supposed to cover Jimmy Ruffin's What Becomes of the Broken-Hearted for the film's climactic moment. Then Paul Young's version appeared in 1991's Fried Green Tomatoes, and the producers had to scramble for a replacement. Enter Kevin Costner, music buff. He'd heard Linda Ronstadt's 1975 cover of Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You, and suggested it to Houston. According to Kennedy's book on Houston, Costner circled the Ruffin song initially, but there was little excitement around it. After Young's cover thwarted that idea, Costner suggested Parton's song, but Costner wasn't done. He told the record executives that Houston should sing the first verse completely a cappella. No instruments, no backing track, just the voice. The record company was horrified. They argued radio wouldn't play it, that songs need to start with a bang to grab attention, that this would hurt airplay and tank the single. Costner told Kelly Clarkson in 2024, yeah, they weren't that wild about it on the record side of things, and I said, you guys need to get over that. I said, don't be too sure they won't play it on the radio. He was right. The a cappella opening became the most iconic part of the song. The single spent 14 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, sold over 24 million copies worldwide, and became the best-selling single by a female artist in music history. Number 9. The soundtrack sold over 45 million copies and broke every record. Clive Davis, head of Arista Records, was nervous when he first heard about The Bodyguard. According to Wikipedia, Davis described the film's first draft as a pure thriller and admitted he was nervous about the film's aspects and what it would do for Houston's career. He couldn't understand why Houston's character needed a bodyguard. Boy, was he wrong. The Bodyguard, original soundtrack album, was released on November 17, 1992. It debuted at #2 on the Billboard 200, then climbed to #1 and stayed there for 20 non-consecutive weeks. In its 6th week, it sold over 1 million copies in a single week, making Houston the first artist to accomplish that feat after Nielsen SoundScan started tracking sales. The numbers are staggering. According to Guinness World Records, the soundtrack has sold over 44 million copies worldwide, making it the best-selling movie soundtrack of all time. Not second place, not close second. First place by a massive margin. Saturday Night Fever sold about 15 million fewer copies. Houston performed 6 songs on the album. I Will Always Love You won Record of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Performance at the 1994 Grammys. The soundtrack itself won Album of the Year. Here's the irony Davis probably thinks about late at night. The film he was nervous about, the one he thought might damage Whitney's career, it produced an album that became the top-selling soundtrack by the National Association of Recording Merchandisers in 1993 and 1994, and remains the gold standard for movie soundtracks over 30 years later. Number 8. The film got 7 Razzie nominations, including Worst Picture.
This is Nikki, Rachel's sister and my personal secretary.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Foreman.
Tony Scabelli.
The critics absolutely savaged The Bodyguard. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 38% rating. Metacritic scored it 38 out of 100, indicating generally unfavorable reviews. The critical consensus read, "The Bodyguard is a cheesy, melodramatic potboiler with occasional moments of electricity from Whitney Houston." But the Razzies took the hate to another level. At the 13th Golden Raspberry Awards, The Bodyguard received 7 nominations. Worst Picture, Worst Actor for Kevin Costner, Worst Actress for Whitney Houston, Worst Screenplay for Lawrence Kasdan, Worst Original Song for Queen of the Night. And here's the best part. They nominated Whitney Houston for Worst New Star. They also nominated Kevin Costner's haircut. His haircut got its own Razzie nomination. The film didn't win in any category, probably because the Razzies had bigger targets that year. But the sheer audacity of nominating the film, both stars, the screenplay, a song, Houston as Worst Newcomer, and Costner's hair choice is honestly impressive. Meanwhile, audiences completely ignored the critics. The film made $411 million worldwide. The soundtrack sold 45 million copies and won 3 Grammys, including Album of the Year. Houston's performance earned her nominations from the People's Choice Awards, MTV Movie Awards, and NAACP Image Awards. In 2004, the American Film Institute ranked the film's version of I Will Always Love You at number 65 on its 100 Years, 100 Songs list. The Razzies nominated it for Worst Song. AFI put it in the top 100 songs in cinema history. Critics versus audiences, the audience won by a landslide. Number 7. Madonna got rejected because she called Kevin Costner neat. In 1990, Madonna was one of the biggest pop stars on the planet. According to an AFI catalog article, Madonna was rumored to have expressed interest in playing Rachel Marin in The Bodyguard. She might have had a shot. Then her documentary Truth or Dare came out in May 1991. The film included footage from Madonna's Blonde Ambition tour, including a backstage moment after her Los Angeles show in May 1990. Kevin Costner came to congratulate her on the performance. What he said became instantly infamous. "I thought it was neat," Costner told her, grinning like America's most wholesome movie star. Madonna's face said everything. "No one's ever described it quite that way," she replied, visibly wanting him gone. After he left, She stuck her finger in her mouth and made a gagging gesture for the camera. The scene made Costner look like the dorkiest person alive. It went viral before viral was a thing. And according to a July 8, 1991 People magazine news item, the singer-actress had ruined her chances by portraying Kevin Costner negatively in her recently released documentary. Kevin Costner, who was also a producer on The Bodyguard, reportedly denied Madonna an audition because of that moment. Here's the delicious irony. Madonna mocked Costner for being too earnest, too wholesome, too neat. In response, he cast Whitney Houston, produced one of the highest-grossing films of 1992, and created the best-selling soundtrack of all time. Meanwhile, Madonna's film career continued to be, well, not neat. Number 6. Rachel's Mansion was the Horsehead House from The Godfather.
Over. If I take it, it's $3,000 a week.
The palatial estate where Rachel Marin lived in The Bodyguard has serious Hollywood history. The exterior shots were filmed at 1011 North Beverly Drive in Beverly Hills, a property known as the Beverly House or Beverly Estate. Built in 1926 by architect Gordon Kaufman for banker Milton Getz, the estate sprawls across several acres with approximately 50,000 square feet of living space, 28 bedrooms, 38 bathrooms, and enough opulence to make Versailles jealous. William Randolph Hearst and actress Marion Davies lived there when Hearst's health forced them to leave San Simeon. John F. Kennedy and Jackie O stayed there during part of their 1953 honeymoon. But here's what makes movie fans lose their minds. According to Wikipedia and multiple sources, this is the same mansion used for the exterior of Jack Woltz's estate in The Godfather. You know, the horsehead scene. The film producer who wakes up to find a severed horsehead in his bed as a message from the Corleone family, that mansion. So Rachel Marin lived in the same house where a movie mogul received the most terrifying wake-up call in cinema history. The property has appeared in dozens of films over the years, including The Jerk with Steve Martin, and more recently served as a location for Beyoncé's visual album Black is King. The interior shots of Rachel's home were actually filmed at the nearby Greystone Mansion at 905 Loma Vista Drive, because apparently one legendary Beverly Hills estate wasn't enough. Number 5. Costner became Whitney's imaginary bodyguard on and off screen. Kevin Costner didn't just play Frank Farmer in the movie. According to his own admission on the Armchair Expert podcast in 2024, he became Whitney Houston's actual protector throughout filming. Costner told the podcast that when Whitney came to set, he made a deal with her. Look, you can't have an entourage, but I'm going to take care of you.
I didn't tell you.
Didn't tell me what?
There were some letters before, Rachel. Same kind of thing. Threats, oddball stuff.
We didn't want to worry you, sweet.
He allowed only her close friend Robin Crawford to accompany her on set. No massive team, no handlers. Just Robin and Costner's protection. He jokingly described himself as Houston's imaginary bodyguard, recognizing the world's perception of their relationship, and ensuring that Houston felt safe and supported throughout production. He told CBS News that he promised Houston and record producer Clive Davis the movie would be a hit, and that he fought to keep scenes in the movie. And that was my promise to her. She's always gonna love me in the song. I was always gonna keep my promise to her. The director didn't want Whitney. The studio didn't want Whitney. Costner overruled them all. He told Entertainment Tonight in 2022, "I knew she could handle the part, but she wasn't sure she could handle it." This wasn't just an actor protecting his co-star. This was a producer who'd staked his reputation on an untested actress, and he wasn't going to let her fail. He guided her, encouraged her, and according to multiple interviews, created an environment where she felt safe enough to deliver the performance of her career. Number 4. Whitney Houston refused to do nudity and got everything she wanted. Diana Ross had pulled out of The Bodyguard in 1979, partly because of nudity in the script. When Whitney Houston came aboard over a decade later, she had the same concern. Houston made her position crystal clear in a 1992 Vanity Fair interview. "They aren't going to tell me to take my clothes off. I'm not hired to show my ass. I don't think it's my greatest asset." That's not a suggestion. That's a boundary. Lawrence Kasdan and Kevin Costner had already removed nudity from the script before Houston even signed on. What remained were only implied intimate scenes. Houston still had additional demands. According to sources, she requested that the implied sexual scenes be eliminated, and that her character and Costner's engage in passionate lip locks rather than traditional mouth kissing. The producers granted all her requests. Houston and Costner filmed more love scenes than what appeared in the final cut. One deleted scene showed Frank undressing Rachel after carrying her out of the club. But according to Houston in an Entertainment Tonight interview, when it came to deciding whether to leave the love scenes in or take them out, I would have been fine either way because the ones that were cut were also tasteful. The irony is Diana Ross walked away because she didn't want to show her body. Whitney Houston walked in, set boundaries, got what she wanted, and the film became a massive success. Sometimes standing your ground is exactly the right move. Number 3. Dolly Parton had to pull over when she first heard Whitney's version. Dolly Parton wrote "I Will Always Love You" in 1973 as a farewell to her business partner, Porter Wagoner. It was a beautiful country ballad. Then, Whitney Houston got hold of it. According to Parton on The Graham Norton Show, when the filmmakers asked to use her song in The Bodyguard, she sent it in and basically forgot about it. Then one day she was driving from her office to her house in Nashville when Whitney's version came on the radio for the first time. Parton had to pull over to the side of the road. She sat there in her car, listening to Whitney Houston transform her gentle country song into a powerhouse vocal performance that would define a generation. Parton later said she had to pull over to finish listening to it because she was blown away by how beautifully the song was done and by how beautifully Whitney sang it. Here's the part that makes this even better. Forbes magazine estimates Parton earned at least $10 million in royalties from Houston's cover. Parton revealed on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen in 2021 that she used that money to invest in an office complex in a black neighborhood in Nashville. Number 2. Kevin Costner refused to cut. His 17-minute eulogy at Whitney's funeral. When Whitney Houston died on February 11, 2012, Kevin Costner was asked to speak at her public memorial service. He agreed, despite not wanting to do it. What he didn't agree to was keeping it short. CNN was broadcasting the funeral live, and they wanted speakers to keep their remarks brief because of commercial breaks. Network executives approached Costner and asked him to limit his speech. Costner told CBS News, and I said, "They can get over that. They can play the commercial while I'm talking. I don't care. But I've come here, I didn't want to do 2 minutes." The eulogy was 17 minutes long. Costner shared stories about Houston's insecurities on set, her tears, her questions about whether she was good enough. He told the mourners, "You weren't just pretty. You were as beautiful as a woman could be. Whitney, if you could hear me now, I would tell you, you weren't just good enough. You were great." He talked about his promise to her during filming. "I will not let you fall. I will help you." He said that when she sang "I Will Always Love You," she would always love him in that song, and he would always keep his promise to her. Costner refused to cut his tribute to fit a commercial schedule. He'd spent months on set watching Whitney doubt herself, encouraging her, protecting her both as a producer and a friend. When it came time to say goodbye, he wasn't going to let a network tell him how long he could speak. The commercials could wait. Whitney Houston deserved every one of those 17 minutes. Number 1, Princess Diana was set to star in the Bodyguard sequel. After The Bodyguard became a massive hit, Kevin Costner had an idea for a sequel, and he knew exactly who should play the lead: Princess Diana. According to sources, following the success of the film, Costner contacted his longtime friend Diana, Princess of Wales, to star in a sequel to The Bodyguard, and here's the stunning part. She agreed. Costner and the writers started developing the screenplay. The project moved forward. Diana was on board to play a character who would need protection, continuing the Bodyguard theme that had made the first film such a phenomenon. The first draft of the screenplay was completed. The timing was eerie. That first draft was finished on August 30th, 1997. Princess Diana died in a car crash in Paris on August 31st, 1997, the day after the screenplay was completed. Following her death, the film was scrapped. There was no way to move forward with a Bodyguard sequel about protecting a beloved public figure when the woman who'd agreed to star in it had just died in a tragedy the whole world was mourning. Think about what that sequel could have been. The biggest movie star of the 90s protecting the most famous woman in the world. The cultural impact would have been massive, but it wasn't meant to be. And there you have it, 15 weird facts about a movie that critics hated and audiences adored. Which facts surprised you the most? Did we miss any wild stories from the production? Let us know in the comment section below. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the movies that define the 90s. Thanks for watching, and until next time.